Well, this is what Cinco de Mayo looked like for us this year here at Red Poppy Ranch. Well, I had to put one of my old shirts on Ruby to keep her from messing with the stitches that she got a few weeks back. But thank goodness she's on the mend and she's doing good.
Let's go inside.
When the fallow deer showed up here last fall, the does wouldn't get anywhere near me no matter how hard I tried. But over winter I didn't give up. And this is what happened yesterday. Well, this young doe here is currently my favorite out of all of the fallow deer that we have, simply because she took the risk and she ate out of my hand. But if you pay attention to her ear, at some point along the way, she tore out an ear tag. It seems that every day the fallow deer become more and more comfortable with me around, and I'm pretty sure we're about 2 months away from having a bunch of baby deer running around the place. Well, this is what's called an antique dry sink, and this particular dry sink is about 100 years old. And before this video is over, I'm going to turn this antique dry sink into a vanity for our bathroom. At least that's the plan. But the problem with this antique dry sink is they sit down low. I need to raise the dry sink up about 4 inches if this is going to work correctly. And the only way I could come up with making this dry sink 4 inches taller involved some iron pipe fittings. Shocking, I know. Sit, Willie. Come here. Come here. Easy, bandit. There was a very particular summer some years back where Cedar and I had to learn the hard way that debt can be pretty easy to get into and pretty hard to get out of. That summer we had saved up a fair amount of cash, and by the end of the summer not only had we gone through that cash, but we had accumulated an equal amount of credit card debt.
It would have been nice to have known about PDS Debt back then. PDS Debt has customized options for anybody struggling with credit cards, personal loans, collections, and medical bills.
If you're making payments every month on your debt and your balances aren't going down, this program is for you.
PDS Debt provides options that consolidate your debt into one low monthly payment.
Everyone with $10,000 or more in eligible debt would qualify.
Even if you have bad or fair credit, it's accepted.
Save thousands in interest and fees and pay off your debt in a fraction of the time.
PDS Debt is a top-rated company on Google and has an A+ rating on the BBB.
PDS Debt is offering you a free debt analysis, and it only takes 30 seconds.
Head over to pdsdebt.com/redpoppyranch to get your free debt assessment today.
Thank you, PDS Debt. Well, I had to look long and hard to find the smallest antique dry sink that I could because of the space that we're working with there in that bathroom. But before you send me an angry email about cutting up this antique dry sink, understand that this thing's far from original at this point, so I don't feel so bad doing what I'm about to do to it. In order to make this into a dry sink, I'm going to have to cut a hole in the top of it where the new lav sink is going to go. So I need to make room by taking the bottoms out of these top two drawers and securing them so they don't come out if they were pulled on. In the back of my head, I'm thinking about how close the corner of this antique dry sink is going to be to the toilet. And for that reason, I'm going to dry fit everything before I cut the hole in the top of this sink and completely ruin it. Simply because I have a feeling it might be a little bit too close to the toilet. Oh, it ain't looking good. Dang it. Dang it, dang it, dang it. What a bummer. I decided to stop on the antique dry sink Vanity until Cedar got back and we could actually see how close it is going to sit to that toilet. But it's a good time to get this shower done. Now this is the way that I was taught to install a concrete shower pan, and it all starts with getting the bottom of this FHA shower drain as close to the concrete as possible. Now that I've got this adjustable shower drain sitting where I want it, I want to fill the void underneath the drain with some topping mix before I put the vinyl pan liner in place. Now that I've glued the shower drain, before I push it all the way down into place, I want to fill that void with some topping mix one final time. In the process of making a concrete shower pan, I've used bricks, I've used plastic molds to hold the concrete, and I've also used pressure-treated lumber. In this situation, obviously I'm using dry pressure-treated lumber. In my past life as a service plumber, I would bet I removed just as many of these concrete shower pans as I've installed because they were installed improperly. I prefer to run my pan liners as high up the wall as I can, but code really only requires about 6 inches. The very first thing I prefer to do every morning is to walk around our place, check on all the animals, make sure everybody's good, and as long as I've got a scoop of grain with me, the fallow deer are always anticipating my arrival. Now this is Skipper, our 7-year-old buck, and you can see he's lost his antlers in the last couple of weeks. Shortly after he lost his second antler, the doe were all immediately aware that he was less threatening than he would have been with his antlers. Normally they don't eat out of the same bowl that he does because he uses those antlers to keep a little bit of distance. But now with no antlers, he's forced to do what they do. So now I'm very carefully going to install all the cement fiber board for the shower surround. And I'm going to do this in a way where I make sure that I don't hit any of the plumbing that's back behind this concrete fiber board. If you use the right length of screws, you shouldn't have a problem, but I don't know how many times I was called out for either a drywall nail or a drywall screw or a trim nail that had been shot into a copper line. Something to keep in mind while you're running some big long screws into the wall. Along with the big screws, I'm also using liquid nails to hold all of the concrete fiber board in place and to make sure it goes nowhere. Using the vinyl shower pan is the best insurance for this job, but once I have all the fiberboard in place and once the concrete shower pan has been poured, I'm going to go over all of the concrete fiberboard and the shower pan with Red Guard, which is the second seal that's going to do most of the work. And don't forget to seal the vinyl pan to that FHA shower drain before you put the concrete pan in place. So these are pre-cut guide sticks that are going to guarantee my slope on this shower pan. I'm using the sand and topping mix, and with the guide sticks, it's guaranteeing that I'm going to have at least an inch of fall from the corners of the shower pan all the way to the drain. As the concrete gets harder and starts to set up, I'm going to remove these sticks and fill in the voids with more sand and topping mix. Now, there are a number of different ways you could accomplish the same thing here, but this is the foolproof way that I have found to ensure that I don't have puddles sitting in the corner of my shower pan, potentially looking for a place to leak. Well, I decided to sleep on it, and it looks like the concrete set up a little bit more than I would have liked it to, but again, because this is sand and topping mix, it's not that big of a deal to get the wood out of there. But this is the place you need to be really careful not to damage that vinyl pan underneath the concrete. The final slope to the drain will be figured out with the tile, and because I've got the shower pan perfectly graded, it won't take a whole lot of work to get that done. But the very last thing that I like to do when the concrete shower pan is finished is make sure the adjustable part of the drain actually adjusts. So, a couple of weeks ago, Ruby came home from her afternoon jog with a pretty significant cut in her chest. Of course, it was after hours and I had to take her to the emergency vet. The vet put her out, stitched her back up, and she's going to be a little bit uncomfortable for a few days. But this is going to have to be the final straw, and I'm going to have to build a dog yard and stop letting the dogs run around as they choose. But thank goodness Ruby's doing good, and she's on the mend. Well, it is officially dry enough to get the trail finished on the side of the mountain just in time for summer. And it's also dry enough to get serious about this rock retaining wall behind the back of the house. The excavator's ready, the rock trailer's ready, even the skid steer's ready as needed. And I'm excited. We'll see you guys in a week.